Welcome to Piggy Banks to Wall Street, the show that brings you the greatest minds in financial education. Piggy Banks to Wall Street is brought to you by Wenrich Wealth. To learn more about how Wenrich Wealth can help you plan for your future, or for a second opinion on your current plan, visit www.wenrichwealth.com or call 949-547-4313. Now your host, wealth manager, financial literacy advocate, and author of the book Teaching Kids to Buy Stocks, Stories and Lessons for Grown-Ups, JJ Wenrich.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Piggy Banks to Wall Street, where we bring you the best minds in financial education. Here with me today is my good friend, Mike Prusinski, co-founder of the Busy Kid app for allowances and investing and saving. And it's quite a wide variety of things that this app does. If you've read my book, you know that this is the one app that I bring up in the book and recommend that parents use with their kids. So with that, Mike, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
JJ, thanks for having me. Now, I know you're breaking away from your norms of having financial experts come on. I'm glad that I'm able to bring down the level of expertise just a little bit.
Well, yeah, you as you were mentioning earlier, you helped co-found the app, but you don't come from a finance background necessarily. And some folks may know that I'm from Kansas originally, and you actually did some time in Kansas, not did
don't
time.
say that. No prison time. Yeah, no prison time.
You did time elsewhere, but
right.
So yeah, tell us a little about who you are, and then we'll get you talking about the Busy Kid app, and we'll see how the conversation goes from there.
Great. Well, you're right. I don't come from a financial background, which is unusual for somebody who would be a co-founder in a financial app, right? But my background is more in marketing, building businesses, public relations. And so up until this point in time, or up until I got into probably about 10 years ago, everything I did was in college and professional sports on the marketing and public relations side. Worked in universities, I worked Olympics, I've worked for the PGA Tour, NASCAR. And then about 10 years ago, a good friend of mine called me and said, I'm gonna be the CEO of a company called LifeLock, and I want you to come and work for me. And so I was the third person at LifeLock, helped build that company up to where it finally went public. It was a huge success. And then a couple years later, I ran into a friend of mine who had done some investing in a company called My Job Chart. And that's where I hooked up with my partner, our CEO, Greg Merced, who had built My Job Chart to close to 1 million members. It was a very successful platform. They knew they had bigger aspirations, and they were looking to bring some other people in with particular skills. And so we started working together and really built that up to past 1 million members. But then technology was starting to change. And so it gave us an opportunity to rebrand My Job Chart to Busy Kid and take advantage of some of the technology that was there that allowed us to move real money between accounts, much like a Venmo does or a PayPal does, and same type of technology. And then build this chore platform where kids completed chores, were paid real allowance, and then could go save it, share it, spend it, and even invest it in real stock. And so through my time built into the system, I became a co-founder in Busy Kid, and that's where we are today. And so every day is a dream, and we're working with some great people like yourself and meeting fantastic families that are using our platform and have kids that are finding all types of success and not just earning money and completing chores, but we've got some kids that have invested thousands of dollars in the stock market. And as they grow up and literally become, once they become adults later on, hopefully this foundation that they built will help them then.
Yeah, it's a great tool. It really is. I actually found it because we were looking for something that we could have debit cards for our kids, and then it it has the chore chart functionality as well, and the function where you can donate to charities, where you can like you say, invest in stocks and in the stock market. But really what drew us to it initially was just being able to have a debit card for the kids, because I mean, every year that goes by, everybody knows this, it becomes a little bit more of a cashless society. And my daughter, she just this morning handed me money that she got from babysitting, handed me a $20 bill and said, will you put this on my Busy Kid card so I can buy some stuff on Amazon? So it's been a great tool.
You actually did that, or you kept the $20?
I can see the $20. It's sitting there right now. So she keeps reminding me, hey, did you move that money yet? Did you move that money yet?
Right. Yeah. And you know what? And that's great that the kids are doing that. We hear that story all the time as well, where kids are babysitting for friends or family. And then they immediately say, I want to put this in my Busy Kid account. So it could either go towards their savings or towards their investment, or in most cases, they take it and they put it on their debit card, and then they're able to go out there and spend it just like many adults do.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, with 3 kids in the house, there's constantly this battle of, all right, whose $5 bill is this in the laundry? And so they've gotten to where they don't like to have cash because they know they're not as good at keeping track of it. I'm like, well, if you just put it in your wallet, then it'd be there. That's sometimes
it's really time for us to teach our kids that we are living in almost a cashless society. I think the number is less than 10% of the money in the world is actually, coins and paper money. And so, and if you talk to many adults, they say, I never carry cash, or I have to go to an ATM machine to get cash. So it's really come down to that plastic. And while a child can't get a true credit card until they're 18 years old, it's really put the focus in and really exploded this debit card or prepaid debit card industry, which we're a part of, to get plastic into the hands of kids earlier, so they can go out there and start learning how to spend the money that they're getting, whether it's through birthday parties or holidays, or that they're earning by doing things around the house, and then go out there and make wise, purchasing decisions, so that when it's time to graduate to a credit card, they've kind of got that. But what generally happens with most cases is it's just, you give them a piece of plastic, whether it's a debit card, let's put the money on the card and the kids go spend it. There's really no bigger meaning around it. And so in our case, we're trying to push this balanced financial approach that takes into account to where spending is as equally as important as savings, and donating is equally as spending as investing, or important as investing. And so kids need to understand that everything kind of works together. We call it the financial circle of life. And if you really do this balanced approach, then no matter what comes your way, you're going to be ready for it. So a perfect example is, as we've seen with the pandemic, not many people have a huge savings account. They just don't save anymore. And so when something happens like this, and all of a sudden your work status changes, can you withstand, that punch in the stomach? How long can you go before all of a sudden, things really get tight? And so that's where, if you've got this balanced approach where every single time you're getting money, something's going into savings, or you've got, a nest egg because you've been investing, that's the important thing. It's just not about spending.
No, absolutely. And the pandemic certainly, like you say, has shown us, front and center, that you've got to be ready for anything. We, one punch in the stomach after the other this year, it seems like, in terms of what's been going on. And that you're going to have that level of uncertainty at some point in your life. And when I'm teaching the teenagers that I work with, I try to tell them, the old Ben Franklin line of, there's only 2 certainties in the world, death and taxes. I say there's one more uncertainty, and that's you're going to have rain on your parade at some point. And so if you don't have that rainy day fund, that's the difference between that punch in the stomach or that rainy day becoming either an inconvenience or something that completely blows you off of your life track. It can be devastating. And so much of it is just that psychology of learning how to save and not just spend till it's gone.
Yeah, we're a perfect example here. So we had a health scare with my wife who had breast cancer. We've got a child that all of a sudden it's time to go to college. You get the pandemic comes in, and all of a sudden the budget gets a little bit tighter. And so you never know where it's going to come from. And so it's for us, we're fortunate that we've been doing this a while. So we do have a nice nest egg. We do have investments that we can, we fall back on. And so we actually prepared for certain things like this. But as I speak to a lot of families throughout the United States, many of them are using BusyKid. And it's our app, our little app has really helped not just the children, but the parents change the way that they're doing their finances, and budgeting and saving, and also just investing. We have a lot of parents that are investing for the first time with their kids. They're making it a family event. And so, when we first started, we never thought about it to that extent, but it really comes down to, that financial literacy. And even though it's not taught in school, and the responsibility is falling on the parents, we're finding that a lot of parents are learning it for the first time themselves because they never learned it. So our app has given them an opportunity to go and do that on a more basic scale. And so for them to be able to go and say, you know what, I want to invest, but I don't want to do thousands of dollars because I don't understand it. I'm fearful of it. Our app allows them to go do that for as little as $10, get their feet wet. And then, if they find some success, they do a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And like I said earlier, we've got kids that are spending, that are investing thousands of dollars just this year alone in BusyKid. And I'm certain that parents are probably doing the exact same with them. Now, whether they're finding success or they're not, that's up to the market. But we're giving them the opportunity, and we're excited about that.
No, that's great. And I love how you mentioned that you can start small with investing, because that's one of the lessons that I try to teach grown-ups, kids, every age is, you don't have to wait until you have $10,000. I mean, that can be pretty daunting to try to save that up, and then and stuff happens. But a lot of the financial independence, the wealth, whatever you want to call it, in this country was built on just doing a little bit a month. Maybe it came out of the 401k, so you didn't see it. You signed up because someone said to sign up, and the next thing you know, you have a nice nest egg. And the way technology has gone, it's so much easier to open accounts with just a small amount of money, and you don't have to even buy full shares. I mean, you don't have to wait to have $3,000 to buy a share of Amazon. You can buy partial shares. And when I was a kid and I first started learning about investing, I mean, the internet wasn't really around in a mainstream fashion yet. I had to look up the stock quotes in the newspaper, and it was always daunting to me because it was listed in alphabetical order by their ticker symbol. And if you didn't know that T was AT&T, there's no way to figure that out unless you called somebody. So the technology has made it so much more accessible, yet people still don't feel like they know what they need to know. And so that's why I like that we're seeing such a good movement towards financial education, because you're right, the parents are being influenced by what their kids are learning through things like BusyKid, or things like I'm doing and some of my other guests have been doing. When I teach my classes, I've had parents that said, I signed my kid up, but I sat there with the Zoom video off, and it was me that was actually the one listening and taking notes. And so it's been eye-opening to me to see that it's everybody that needs to learn this. It's not just the young people.
Financial literacy is the buzzword. Everybody, particularly over the last year, it's you see many states all of a sudden trying to invest more into the financial literacy part of it, because they see the trickle-down effect. They see the huge, the large amount of student loans. They see the huge, deficit in the debt, credit card balances going up through the roof, and it all stems from the fact that people just not being able to make the right decisions because they don't know it. So all the states are trying to invest all this time and energy and money into financial literacy, but it still comes down to, once it gets down to the school, it's not making its way into the classrooms. And again, that's where it falls on parents. Well, parents are busy. They may not be as educated. And so that's where an app like ours provides them the opportunity to plug in, see it working right away, see the difference it makes in their kids, and then jump in as well on the investing side, or maybe the donation side. Yeah. Everybody likes to invest in things that are sure things, right? So you sit there and go, man, I wish I could invest in Tesla or Netflix or Apple. But if you go and you see what those cost, there's no way you can afford it. Well, a platform like ours makes it, like you said, for $10 or maybe $20, and you do it maybe every paycheck, you're getting a little piece of that company. And so like right now, my daughter's got Disney, she's got Apple, she's got Tesla, but then she's also got some smaller brands that she does things with and she can follow. And she has the same moments like everybody else. She'll panic when the stock market goes down and she sees that there's been a big hit to her stock. She wants to go sell it. But I keep telling her, you haven't lost anything yet until you sell it. So you just go ahead and just keep riding it out. And when it gets to the point where you feel comfortable and want to sell it, go ahead and sell it. But again, there's really no great time to get into the stock market. You just got to get into it. Yeah. And then it's just, can you make that commitment financially to stay with it, and then just be patient and just let it ride out and have your plan of when it hits this point in time, that's when I'm going to get out. You can't be one of these people that put it in one day and take it out the next.
No, you're absolutely right. You have to have that wherewithal to stick with it, and which is why, what I call the most important rule in investing is start by saving cash. Don't put your money that you might need in the next few months or even few years into investing, because what will happen is you have a year like this where something happened and you need that money. You can't, you don't have the money to fall back on. Then you do have to sell those things low, or you're too emotional because you're like, hey, that's my rent money. I can't watch my rent money go down. You shouldn't be investing your rent money. So you've got to start with cash. And so there's a couple other lessons we've only touched on within the app that I love. One you mentioned is the share functionality. I love it when I get the emails saying Henry donated to this animal charity or to whatever it may be. I love getting those emails that, all right, they got their allowance, but then they put some of it into one of the charities that's associated with the app, and it's like big list of them that they can donate to. And honestly, I don't know that they would be charitably inclined if they didn't see that right in front of them, if they didn't have that visual of, oh, here's this organization and there's that organization. And we might say, hey, take some money to church when we go this weekend, but instead they're doing it without being cued. They're doing it on their own. And I love it when I get those emails because it probably wouldn't happen otherwise.
Again, it goes back to that balanced financial approach, right? That circle of life. And there are some unbelievable organizations out there, particularly now, that are struggling. These organizations help people that are in need. Sharing or the donating part of it is very important to us at Busy Kid. When we were My Job Chart, we actually, my partners, our CEO, took his 6 kids, packed them in an RV, and traveled from Phoenix, Arizona to New York City, down to Florida, and then back to Phoenix over about 25 days, 8 of them in an RV. And what they did is they went from city to city and did chores for families that were associated with some of our charities. And because, they've got other things going on in their life, so maybe they weren't able to mow their grass or trim their trees or clean their house, or even in some cases, we went to a Ronald McDonald house and made thousands of breakfast burritos. And so that really touches us, and and that's why it's important to us, and that's why we want people to understand it's an important part of this balanced financial approach. And for kids to be great givers as adults, we really believe that it needs to start when they're young. And if you go to church, probably it's you're giving your kids money to go do the donation at church. But we've got over 30 charities associated with right now, and it's growing. We're seeing kids much like yours tap into, what I'm interested in animals. Well, we've got charities for animals. We've got some that, we've got we've got one of our kids who lives in Boston who actually created his own donation, his own charity. He found that he was taking his allowance that he earned through Busy Kid and was putting it towards giving lunches to the homeless in Boston. And so he actually built out his own charity, starting with what he was doing with Busy Kid. So it's an important part of us, as adults. I know we look at donations as part of the tax relief that we get at the end of the year, but we want kids to understand early on that it means a whole lot more, especially the people that really need the support.
Yeah, no, such an important thing. That's something I've been married for almost 19 years now. It's something that my wife told me when we first got together. It was one of her core values is to be charitably inclined and to be gracious in that manner. And she loves to tell a story about how when we were at our low point financially, she kept giving, and really feels that one, it makes you feel good, but just feels that in the grand circle of life and the grand scheme of things that it does come back around. And she goes, no, we're never going to stop being charitably inclined, even if it might look like a bad financial decision. We're going to keep doing that.
As a family, JJ, as a family, we kind of go both ways. So we give money, and then we also give our time. We'll go to Ronald McDonald House, we'll go to other charities, food banks, and whatever, and we'll spend our time. Well, now with the pandemic the way it is, you're seeing those opportunities kind of be limited, and not just the number of them that exist, but also the opportunities that provide. So we're seeing more donations going out through our app to the charities. So obviously people are going, listen, I don't feel comfortable going and giving my time. But I'm going to make up for it and give out in more of my financial donations. So we love the fact that we see people doing that. We see the dollars every single day, and it really makes you feel good that you've built something that people are using that way to help others.
Absolutely, and I think that's important to note, that if you don't have the dollars, give your time if you can. Obviously, you want to be safe given the pandemic situation, but and teaching your kids to work and to work for others, even if you're not getting paid. I mean, that's going to carry folks a long ways. I had another guest that runs a nonprofit around financial literacy, and we got into a bit of a tangent about these people that we've met that are very successful, very wealthy, and now they spend their time really just giving back. And it's such an inspiration to see that these folks that could just be smoking cigars on their boats out on the ocean, instead, they're going down to Mexico to help orphanages, and they're just doing all these different things. And it's just so important to see that, and so important to show your kids that that's something that they can do.
I think there's a lot of people that inside they say, if I made $1 million, I would donate a whole lot more than I do now. But it's important to note that you don't have to give a lot of money. It's just that you give money, or you give, like you said, you give time, and that those lessons actually trickle down to our kids, because that next generation has to be the one to really move this ball forward. And so if they don't see you doing it, if they don't know why it's important, if they don't build that routine early on that just becomes second nature to them, then it's gonna dissipate, and it's just not gonna come back to them. So it's not about I don't make enough money. It's what can you do, whether it's giving of yourself or the time. But in the Busy Kid app, it's about building that foundation, building that routine, so that kids, just like I said, it's second nature to them, that automatically 10% is going to whatever charity they wanted to go to. Right.
The other thing I love about the app is you have to work for that money. I come from a part of the country where people work very hard from dusk till dawn, and or dawn till dusk, and if it don't do the work, the money doesn't come in. And I'm a believer in allowances. I guess there's a few people out there that aren't, but for the most part, I think most people think, well, you should teach your kids to work for the money. I'm always surprised when I find the people that say, I don't believe in allowances, and I always try to dig in. I go, well, you mean it's just giving them money or making them work for the money? And I think
let me correct you, JJ. The thing is, what we see is parents don't have problems with the allowance. It's whether they work for it or not. There's no two bigger things in our app than chores and allowance, and how people feel about them. So you have parents that absolutely love chores, absolutely love allowance. You have parents that love chores, hate allowance. And you have parents that, hate chores, but love allowance. And so as we deal with people that come in and start asking questions about Busy Kid, a lot of times you need to be careful what you say because you don't know where they stand. But that's the best thing about our app is that no matter which camp you're in, you can set this up for your family to work for you. So if you're the type of parent that loves chores and loves allowance, guess what? It's already set for you. You don't have to worry about it. If you love chores, but you don't really like allowance, well, then you can set your values to 0 and let your kids work for nothing if that's what you want them to do. We don't believe in that, but if that's what you want. If you want your child to do some chores and then do some for free, and then because that's being part of a family, but you want them to earn extra by doing extra things that maybe it's not assigned to them, you can do that too. Our app is very flexible and allows you to set things up one way or another. Even if you just say, you know what, my child is busy. They've got practice, they've got school, they've got music lessons, they've got all these other things. I just want to give them a weekly allowance. And then whatever they do around the house, I understand. You can even set it up that way too. And the money can go right into their save, share, and spend buckets, or you can move it directly onto their debit card, whichever way you want to go. So it was important for us when we started to build this app to make it flexible to meet all different types of families and what they need. And so that's the way we've got it. But the important thing to note, and as we tell parents, chores is just a mechanism to get the money into the system, right? If you just do chores and there's no allowance tied to it, there's really no reason for you to be using Busy Kid, since we're trying to teach that financial approach, right? So the chores is just that mechanism to kind of spark the whole thing and get the money moving through. We want people to focus on the overall message of work for it, because that, as adults, it's what you've got to do. You got to work to get your paycheck to go pay your bills and then start everything over again, right? And so kids need to learn that as well. My daughter, and I was telling you this before we started, because I don't have that financial background coming on, we're just kind of making it up as we go like everybody else. And then once I got into Busy Kid and started seeing how it was changing my kids, we had a foreign exchange daughter from Germany who came in and was using Busy Kid as well. And it completely changed her too. And so also my daughter went from not really worrying about how much money she spent and did her room get cleaned and things like that, to all of a sudden she bought into this hook, line, and sinker, and all of a sudden chores are being done. She was earning her allowance. She's making donations. She's investing in things. But then we go to the store and she's seeing, she's comparing her price tags. Maybe I don't want to buy this $25 sweater because I know how much dog poop I need to pick up. I know how many times I need to clean the bathroom. And so it completely changed her mindset. And so it's important for this entire process to work, because it will change the way the kids think. And we hear from parents all the time, thank you so much for changing, the way my kid was to the way that the kid is now, or to motivate them, or in some senses, thank you for making my life easier, because now I don't hear the complaints and I'm not fighting about chores. And that's what we've done. We've completely changed the structure and the mindset of kids these days who are used to just sitting on the couch watching TV, saying, "Mom, is dinner ready yet?" Now they're on the front lines. They're cooking dinner. They're doing the laundry. They're taking the trash out. They're mowing the grass. I know you've seen the same thing with your kids as well. And so once they get in it and they start using it and they see that difference in their children, most of the time they're Busy Kid families for life.
Yep. No, it's been great. I mean, I saw my oldest of the 3 younger ones, who he was, when it was cash and coins, he was the spender and he never had it. And he's a little absent-minded, so he tends to lose stuff as well. And then once we switched over to the Busy Kid, he loves watching that number go up. So he's become the saver. Now I've got another kid who's kind of the opposite, and he tends to, all right, is there $5 on the card? All right, I'm gonna go find a home for that. And so, but at the same time, it's a good teachable moment to say, hey, no, you can't. That's what there is. That's all that's there.
And that's that's one of the lessons too. Is we know there are other apps out there that just want people to put money on the card so the kid can go spend it. or in the parents, in some regards, the parents have the opportunity to limit where a kid could go spend their money. But we believe there are life lessons all through our app. And one of those lessons are, if your child has $5 on the card, to your example, and then spends that $5 right away on candy, well, then let's say a couple of days later, all of a sudden, oh, wait a minute, there was a toy I want to get, or there was a video game that I could get, or whatever, and the money's gone. There's a valuable lesson to that, right? And so we're trying to teach those valuable lessons as part of our platform. When your child gets older, gets to be adult, mom and dad aren't going to be there to sit there and say, hey, you can't spend your money there. Or my card won't work in that shop because, my parents didn't approve it. And so we still have approval processes in our app, but we believe it's when the money's moving out of the system, that's a great time for you to have a conversation with your child. They requested $5 or $10. That's the time to sit there and say, what did you want that $10 for? What are you planning on going buying? Have that conversation of, well, maybe that's not a wise choice to make. But at the end of the day, if the child says, well, it's my money, I want to go spend it, you know what? That's another time for you to later on possibly say, oh, I told you so.
Yep. No, absolutely. It gives you those teachable moments and gives them that empowerment. It's been fantastic. Anything that surprised you, or something that you've learned that you didn't expect to learn as you've gone through this process?
I learned something every single day. Surprising would probably be how much people really embrace this system and really come to love it. They come in being very skeptical and just going, I don't know if this really is going to work for my family. But then once they put it in place, hearing their feedback and how much it surprised them, and then also how they make it fit their family structure. We have everybody from 1 child to 5 kids, and how they interweave it into their family dynamic is really interesting. And that we have kids that are working outside the app. They have their own jobs and they're still putting money into the system to use the Busy Kid card. Really resonates, particularly to me, that this is going way beyond what we first imagined as a 7 to 17 age range, that people feel really comfortable, kids feel comfortable with it, and so they stay with it. And we're making adjustments on our end to kind of, help expand that, make it a little bit more mature for teens and kids that are a little bit older. But as far as learning something, again, the parents I talk to, again, not having that financial background, in an education type of way, I'm always learning things and hearing things from parents. And so that's been the biggest lesson learned for me. And the biggest surprise is just, I knew people were going to like what we do, and they were going to like the app, but to hear the dedication and the love for it and how it's really changed the way they do things at home, that's been very gratifying.
No, it's fantastic. I was so happy to find it, happy to see how affordable it is. It's not something that you price any family out of. It's just been a wonderful tool for our family. And I'm so glad to have found it years ago. And, there's a reason why it was the one app that I wrote about in the book, because it's been so useful for the family.
Well, I've gotten to meet, hundreds of families, and talk to them and hear their stories, much like yours. And I knew I was going to like you because you had a Kansas background. But it's those stories that, that keep you going and make you want to work hard and develop an app. And, many of the things that you see in our app, whether it's the charities or it's the chores or it's the way the app works itself, comes from our families. We want to hear from them of, what works for them, what doesn't work for them. If there's particular charities that they're attached to, we have absolutely no problem approaching those organizations and saying, we've got people that want to donate to you. And so it's been a labor of love. And then the opportunity, again, I feel blessed to be able to go out there and meet families much like yours and develop a relationship. And then kind of hear about the kids growing as we move along year to year. It's that type of stuff. We can't wait until we get somewhere down the road, maybe 5, maybe 10 years, and we're hearing stories about these kids that are graduating, and they've, part of the money they're using in college is things that they've, saved for when they were usually a busy kid, or those success stories are coming. We know they are, and we can't wait.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate you spending some of your day with us today, Mike. It's been wonderful to get to know you these last couple years here, and been fun to visit with you today. And just appreciate everything that you and Greg and the rest of the team are doing.
Well, JJ, thanks for having me. I think you've had Greg on before. Anything you ever need from us, we're here for you.
Fantastic. So again, we've been talking to Mike Prusinski, co-founder of the Busy Kid app. We appreciate everybody listening today. This has been another episode of Piggy Banks to Wall Street. Until next time, hope that you have a wonderful week and a wonderful day. Thanks so much.
This podcast is sponsored by Wenrich Wealth. To learn more about how we can help you plan for your future, or for a second opinion on your current plan, visit our website at www.wenrichwealth.com or call 949-547-4313. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA and SIPC. Wenrich Wealth, Teaching Kids to Buy Stocks, Golden Seal Productions, and OC Talk Radio are not affiliated with LPL Financial. The opinions in this matter are for general information only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations or a substitute for specific tax or legal advice for any individual. We suggest that you discuss your specific situation with a qualified tax or legal advisor. No strategy assures success or protects against loss. JJ's book, Teaching Kids to Buy Stocks, Stories and Lessons for Grown-Ups, is available at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and other fine book retailers. Learn more at TeachingKidsToBuyStocks.com. Piggy Banks to Wall Street is proud to be a part of the Golden Seal Productions family of shows.